The issue now that I expect us to also start looking at is looking at the back and forth movement of our political transition, thinking just when we thought that we had moved out of a violent nature or culture of conducting elections, especially going by the example shown by President Jonathan, we're getting to see Bayelsa State coming as if they're taking everyone backwards. You've gone across the length and breadth of the continent, the African continent, and have seen how elections are conducted in other African countries, and Nigeria is another leading light in that. What example do you think Bayelsa is bringing in that particular success that we thought we had gotten in the last election?
Well, certainly, Sullivan, Bayelsa is taking us backwards, and it's very unfortunate, that we can have a thing like this. And I was also very disappointed at the amount of violence too that also went on in Kogi, maybe not during the elections itself, but the aftermath of the elections. We must be able to manage all these things. These things are totally unnecessary. And I believe that if you check, we've just finished elections in Tanzania. Of course, we know the consequences of the one in Burundi, which the African Bar Association have been actively involved in, advising President Nkurunziza to a different path rather than to destroy his country. Because the consequence of violating the constitution is what you see. You see the consequences. There's an equal and opposite reaction to this kind of thing. So for us as Nigerians, we should have built on the successes INEC recorded in the 2015 general elections, and which was partly repeated in Kogi, because Kogi was very peaceful during the elections, and I thought that we should be moving on like that. But one thing I want to keep saying is that we must get the federal government to wake up to their responsibilities, because it is what you hear, it is what you are educated on. A lot of people don't have light to watch television, to probably listen to what the programs going on here, or to even listen to the enlightenment campaign NTA tries to do, which once in a while I see. But I think we used to have mobile vans those days going around. It's not during elections. Every day, people have obligations. People need to pay their taxes. People need to keep their environment clean. People need to respect the national flag. People need to know that you have no other country. So that's something that the federal government needs to think. The new Minister of Information needs to look at it. Not only Minister of Information, the state governors, the information ministries, even those of us who are public, who are civil society groups, and the media. We need to continue to devote part of our time to educate our citizens, because that's the only way out of this kind of thing that we are seeing in Bayelsa.
Where do you think we missed out on this one in Bayelsa?
Well, I don't know at the particular point in which we missed out. I think that the problems in Bayelsa has been there, and like I said, if we don't play politics by the rules, there's always going to be consequences like this of violence. The campaign that was being carried on by Silva, the governorship candidate of APC, and Serake Dixon, most of it, if you check, was very divisive, and it tends to play another game here that, the former president is in the PDP, and therefore we cannot allow him to be disgraced, but we are forgetting that President Jonathan is a statesman, is an envoy to most part of the world now. So what are you talking about? He's not there to support, if we are not talking about partisan politics. President Jonathan shouldn't at this stage be supporting any serious party. He should be a statesman and carry on with the statesmanship. So nobody should use that as an excuse for unleashing violence in Bayelsa State or anywhere else. So we need to do an inward review. We need to do it, and we need to have an educative policy of our people. We need to tell them the story of Nigeria. We need to let them understand that the UK you are seeing on TV, for those who have not traveled, the America you see on TV, and the other countries you see on TV that are moving on smoothly and nicely, everywhere looking good, was built by the people, not necessarily by government.
You know why I'm asking this? Because if you cast your mind back, don't forget how the primaries, especially for the APC, went down. Recall what went down. It was also in the news space. Yes. You had the governor of Edo State who was to conduct or chair that or oversee the primaries of the APC, and there was talk about some form of threat and how the party was able to manage that particular situation then. Do you think that we missed out on something concerning the cry out of the governor then, and how the party finally went on with its primaries. And if you follow all of this, there is a transition from that point leading up to this election, and the high point was when the whole candidates all came together to say they signed a peace pact. It would seem as if the peace pact has been broken about what we have seen in Bayelsa.
A peace pact is not what's his name. It's not what the paper is written on if it's not in the minds of your leader. Don't forget, candidates can go and sign peace pacts. But what about the supporters? What about those in the creeks? What about the guns? What about the gun boots? What about the ammunition, the armory that they've kept? They want to use it to support someone and be able to reap the step off at the appropriate time. And what's the cause of all this? Like I said, lack of education. That's the greater part of it. And secondly, the unemployment is getting worse and worse. So people have nothing to do. The idle mind, they say, is the devil's workshop. So people just go about, what do we do in this circumstance? We line up behind Silver, don't worry. We mow these people down. We win the elections. We get money. We do this. We do that. And we've actually seen people succeed. Some people spend, throughout most part of last year, some people spend all their time in the hotels in Abuja for years, pay for exchange, doing nothing. Just going to sell contract papers here and there and all that. We need to stop all these kind of things. Otherwise, we're not going to get out of this.
Do we think we lose sight of the past because we're chasing the future? In terms of, Sulaiman asked a question about some of the things that were said during the primaries of the APC by the governor then that was conducting that. Issues about statements made, complaints made, in moving forward, are there lessons that can be drawn from those things that were said before so that we can move forward?
Unfortunately, politicians in this country, from what I've seen, never learn lessons. You know, but if we are learning lessons, it would have been easy to have seen that the violence that has been unleashed in this country within the past few years and within the successive elections, you know, didn't lead anybody anywhere. At times, some of these elections, after the violence, are avoided by the courts, and the people go home, you know, sulking, you know, and all that. So I don't think politicians learn their lessons, but I think they should begin to learn their lessons. Because if you see the kind of security problems we have now, which is taking the world by surprise, but which I foresaw long ago because of the imbalance in the play at the international level and the kind of judgments we give and the kind of groups we form, we're bound to yield way to this kind of problems we are now having. It's also in the country. So they should understand that they need to put their acts together in order not to excavate the already very bad security situation.
All right, I'd like to digress a bit. On the issue of Kogi, the issue of ethnic coloration has read its head. Some say the party didn't choose Faleke because of the predominant ethnic group, the Idoma people, who've led the country. I want to ask about the structure of our state system. There's been the clamor for going back to the Gowon era when we had 12 states. But lately, we've had more calls for new states. The way our state system is structured now, you know, does it really foster development? Has it helped, or has it contributed to the breakdown and the holding on to ethnic divides?
I think that it has. I think you are very correct, because your last part of it is very correct. It has only ended up helping to strengthen the ethnic divides and to bring out the worst in our different platforms. You know, because if you look at it, what sort of development you create a state with all the administrative structures, states that are not viable, states that cannot tap their resources, you know, because everyone wants to rely on government. So what's the point? The states now cannot even pay salaries, and people are still clamoring for more. So it doesn't make sense. I think the days where we had our regions or where we have lesser states was far better than what we have now. I come from the present Edo State, formerly Bendel, now Midwest. The amount of development that was done throughout the entire Midwestern region at the time can never be compared to what is going on now. You know, I'm talking about Midwest now, parts of Bayelsa, Delta, and the present Edo State. You know, and perhaps some parts of Edo State at that time. You know, the developments went through everywhere. Any road you see now across any of these places were done during that period. So, but what are we doing? The governors cannot even the local governments cannot even do any road within a lane, cannot even tie a lane. State governments can't pay salaries, so by implication, they can't do nothing. But political office holders are earning fast salaries, which is the superstructure created as a result of the creation of states, which are really, it doesn't produce anything, but just consumes. So I think that
another matter for another day. If you look at where we're headed now, Hannibal Waifo, legal practitioner, president, African Bar Association. Thank you for coming on Sunrise this morning.
Thank you very much.
Sunrise Daily takes a moment. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.